when I was growing up and getting into music, there was always a bit of a quandary for me. If I discovered a band, say I heard it on a radio or I heard it on a compilation album, I'm just on a video going through my favourite compilations. So say there was a band. So I'd go down my record shop. Of course they didn't have all the albums there. Often they didn't have any of the albums. I may have to order an album, or I'd have to persuade my dad to drive me up to Birmingham to go to one of the big record shops. And that only happened about 3 times a year. So I had to really, really picky in what I was buying. And so when I walked in, there was always the option of buying a best of. And if I bought a best of, I would be getting the best stuff. And then I could pick and choose from there. So best ofs were very, very important to me growing up. Now, the nature of a best of is very interesting because they fall into a number of categories. For bands who make hit records, it's almost, that's the only album you'll need. Okay. For bands that have been deleted and their main albums weren't around, which is one of the cases, and they just decided to replace it all with the best of, that was your only choice. Or it could be that I only really half liked the band. I quite liked them and I wanted some of their tracks, or I wanted a particular track and the best of would do. So there's a whole bunch of reasons for me for buying these. Now, when I went to do this, I thought I'll go and pick out my 10 favourite best ofs. There's just hundreds of them. I pretty much think I grew up listening to best ofs, and I've been here talking about actual albums, but I think on the whole, if you went back and went into my bedroom and thought I listened to it, it'd probably be a best of. Why wouldn't it be? Because it's the best of. So rather than do 10, I've had to do 15 here, and they're not in any particular order. They're not ranked or anything. It's a bit of a mess actually. But we'll do our best, shall we? So I'm going to start off with an Inheritance album. This is an album that belonged to my dad. I used to listen to it a lot myself growing up. I absolutely loved it. It was this, The Best of Chico Hamilton. Now, one of the impressive things about this album when I was very young is I would thumb through my dad's record collection looking at all the album covers, and this was always fascinating because Chico's face is so big, and when you're a kid, and I'm going to have to move the camera back to show you how this works, if I just move this back to about here, is that as a kid me and my brother could take turns making us laugh by doing this. Right now what I'm doing here you will not see really on Sea of Tranquility, or even that awful man, Rick Lady. Is it Rick? I forgot his name. At Prong Corner. Right. So, I'll move this back here now. I had it all lovely composed. Why did you do that for? Just to get a bit of a laugh? Just to get a laugh? Is that why you did it? And they're all thinking, he's got a gorilla in that room. Why has he got a gorilla? And it's not even in view. Why would this guy have a gorilla and then not put him in view? Look at that's awful composition. I have to get this just right. There we go. That's not so bad, is it? Yeah, I think that's actually better. This album was the compilation of his 60s stuff on Impulse Records. Chico was doing some incredible stuff. Groovy, funky, and heavy. And on here we have 2 guitarists, Gabor Szabo and a very young Larry Coryell. This is the beginning of jazz fusion. Also on here we've got Charles Lloyd, Ron Carter, Charlie Mariano and Richard Davis. It's a classic track album, and the classic track for me was Conquistadors, which is a funky jam. Absolutely love that track. Go and check it out. It's brilliant. Gabor Szabo on guitar, and it's out there. It's nothing to do with virtuosity. It's just to do with groove. It's so unlike the 50s Chico Hamilton that was so third stream and intellectual. This has guts. I love this guy. And if that face looks familiar, I tell you why it does, because his brother Bernie Hamilton was Captain Doby in Starsky and Hutch. That's what you come here for, isn't it? Is that sort of stuff. Shall we put that? A magnificent album cover that is. And you just don't get that anymore. You just do not get that feeling. Right, shall we just go in here and see what happens? They're all in a random order. Right. The Adventures of Thin Lizzy, the hit singles collection. Right, I love Thin Lizzy, but I had 3 records by Thin Lizzy. That was it. I'll tell you what they were. It was this one, Live and Dangerous, and an EP called Killers. Now, the EP I no longer have. I don't know whether it's gone, but that is without a doubt the greatest moment of Thin Lizzy. It sounds even more incredible than Live and Dangerous. For me, there was a lot of early Thin Lizzy albums I just didn't understand. I'd heard a little bit of them. I didn't really... There's that whiskey in the jar bit, and I didn't really understand that. And then they slowly get going with Bad Reputation, all those albums. And it was really confusing to me. This sort of made sense because they got all the albums on the back. But I didn't need to get them because on here we've got Whiskey in a Jar, then we've got The Wild One, Jailbreak, Boys Are Back in Town, Don't Believe a Word, Dancing in the Moonlight, Waiting for an Alibi, Do Anything You Want to Do, Sarah, Chinatown, and then it ends with Killer on the Loose, which I also had on single. Oh, it's got an inner sleeve. Look at that, it's beautiful. There they are rocking. I absolutely love Thin Lizzy. They are one of my favourite bands of all time. Albums like Jailbreak, Bad Reputation are fantastic. Johnny the Fox, fantastic. Chinatown, fantastic. Black Rose, they're brilliant albums, but for me that was the album. That was my Thin Lizzy album. There they are. Brilliant stuff. Let's put them up there so you can have a gaze upon them while I talk about the next one. An album my dad had in his collection when I was coming up was Crosswinds by Billy Cobham. That was a very important album to me. He'd had it for... he bought it around about the time I started to play the drums, so it was very important. So I became a Billy Cobham fan. Not straight away because I had an allegiance to heavy metal, but I suddenly realised that in terms of drumming, no heavy metal drummer or heavy rock drummer could even touch this guy. So I've got this from the drumming interest in Billy Cobham, so I went out and bought this. The Atlantic Best of Billy Cobham, right? And I followed it up with another album which covered the later CBS years. We're going to talk about that in a bit, sort of. But this one was put together by Atlantic Records. It feels like a proper album. Got a great cover, no picture of Billy, but it's got his silver drumsticks in a special box. And this is very well programmed. This is the thing about a best of. Sometimes you can program a best of in a way that it feels like an actual album, and you start to prefer this order than the order you get on one of the actual albums. This opens up with Quadrant 4 in the same way that Spectrum does, right? I hadn't heard Spectrum. The first time I heard Quadrant 4 was on this, right? And that moved as Spectrum does into Snoopy's Search for Red Baron. We get those little drum solos, but then instead of then dropping into Spectrum, which is a fantastic track, this one drops into Spanish Moss, A Sound Portrait, which is off Crosswinds. I knew that. And then the album side one ends with Moon Germs, which is off Total Eclipse, a very funky track. Flip it over and we get the incredible Stratus, the whole version, all 10 minutes of it. Then we get Pleasant Pheasant, right? The Pleasant Pheasant is just one of the greatest tracks ever made, and it contains the greatest drum solo in the history of mankind. Then we get the track Panhandler off a Funky Thide of Sings, very funky, and then it finishes up with a vocal track off the George Duke Billy Cobham band live on tour in Europe, which is called Do What You Wanna, which was, for me, a bit too close for being funky soul pop music, and so I never bought that. I saw it a number of times, and to see, you know, that one where they got their hands and they're walking and they got their heads in one of the most... I've covered it a million times and I wasn't going to buy that. It was too frightening, and so I never bought it, which is a shame because that was almost like Billy Cobham going Zappa. Anyway, very important album, that. Now what we've got next, I'll have to pull these out, so just bear with me. I've bought 3 of these and I'm going to class this as one choice. In the mid-80s, ECM brought these beautiful best-ofs, would you say they're best-ofs, compilation albums. All themed, so they all have this sort of silk screen photograph that has been treated in different ways. Oops, sorry. I've just grabbed a few of these. I bought a lot of these. And in the case of these 3 artists, Chick Corea, who I loved from the 70s fusion stuff, I then got drawn into all the other stuff he was making and the much more esoteric stuff that was going on ECM. All these albums are so beautifully programmed that they feel like an actual album. And to me, this is an actual album. It's a Chick Corea album. And the thing that's lovely about it is how esoteric it is. it opens up with addendum for violin, cello and piano. Beautiful. And then we get Where Are You Now, which is from the Piano Improvisations album. Then we get Noon Song, which is another piano improvisation. Then we get Children's Song from Crystal Silence. Beautiful, minimal. And then from the Lyric Suite for Sextet, we get Brasilia, which is a piece that Chick Corea wrote for piano vibraphone with Gary Burton and a string quartet, which features Carol Sheave, who was in the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and I'm sure was friends with his wife, Gail Moran. Turn it over, and it has the incredible Slippery When Wet, which is an improvisation by a trio, which I think Chick used us on his very first album, I think. Tones for Jones Bones, Chick Corea, Miroslav Vitas and Roy Haynes. That's the incredible piece of free improvisation. I bought that double album, it's mind-blowing. Then we get a duet improvisation from Trio Music, which is just Chick Corea and Miroslav Vitas. This is free jazz, but it's very controlled free jazz, and I absolutely loved it. Then we get A New Place from Piano Improvisations Volume 2. I love that one more, so I went out and bought Volume 2. And then it finishes up with La Fiesta, which is by Return to Forever off the first album, the Latin jazz album that features Chick Corea, Joe Farrell, Stanley Clarke, Ayotu Moreri and Flora Purim. Same with this, even more so with this is like an actual Pat Metheny album. I just loved it, and it's got the incredible It's For You, which is 8 minutes. It's like a prog acoustic thing, brilliant off the album As Falls, Which Just So Falls, Which Just Falls. We've got a 30-minute slice of 8081 on here. There's bits off Ramp, Travels, American Garage, and New Chatuaka. It's an interesting album, and it's the same with this one, Gary. But this is a lot more the 70s albums that he made when he was working with the guitarist Pat Metheny and Mick Goodrick. You know, it's got Steve Swell on bass. So this series of works are very important to me, and if I bought an album of this usually became my favourite album. I've also got the Tahei Ripdale one. I think I've got the Keith Jarrett one. I love them. I would put them, if I was ranking my favourite albums, they would be in there. And it's no point saying, yeah, but they're best of, because if you get a different experience. This is an example of a brilliantly presented and compiled best of. All right. So shall we put Pat Metheny's works on, because this is essential, absolutely essential. And the way that one is programmed, it's a lot more in the ECM style. There's a lot more the smaller stuff. It's not so much, there's nothing off the Watercolours album, and there's nothing off the first album, and so it's minimal and acoustic, and that's what I loved about it. Shall we carry on? Right, I'm getting confused here. Right, here's a band I've slated many a time here. All right, and I will argue this now. This band, you only need this album, and that's the bottom line. I don't care what anyone says, and it is the Beach Boys' 20 Golden Greats, with this fantastic illustration of some shadowy man surfing. I'm sure if it was in real life, you'd be able to see him because of the amount of sunshine about, but they obviously didn't want to paint the man, so they did that. And I can't tell whether he's going towards me or away from me. I mean, he's obviously going towards me, but anyway, I shall not get bogged down with the awfulness of this. But this is all you need. This is all you need. You don't need Pet Sounds. All right? There's only 2 good tunes on Pet Sounds, and they're on here. This is where we get all the stuff. Because if you buy Pet Sounds, you don't get the best of the Beach Boys, which is all the early stuff. Like I Get Around, that's the best stuff. On here we've got Surfing USA, I Get Around, Fun, 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 Don't Worry Baby, Little Deuce Coupe, When I Grow Up to Be a Man, Help Me Rhonda, California Girls, Barbara, Sloop John B, which is off Pet Sounds, rubbish. Then you get on side 2. It's brilliant because their tunes are so, we get like 20 tunes on here, and we get You're So Good to Me. Then we get God Only Knows, the best track on Pet Sounds, and Wouldn't It Be Nice, the second best track on Pet Sounds. And then we get Good Vibrations, which is better than anything on Pet Sounds. Then I got Kissed Her, Heroes and Villains, I think that one, and Darling. There's a good slice of stuff off Pet Sounds on here. You don't need Pet Sounds if you got this. Then we got Darling, Do It Again, I Hear Them, Can Hear the Music, and Breakaway. That's obviously on that album that followed up that people rate as well. That's all you need. The Beach Boys, that's all you need. I put it there to remind you that, just to prove I do love the Beach Boys, but that's the stuff I love. Right? They're not the Beatles. It's obvious. This is going to be a contentious one because I absolutely love this. It's not contentious, but it's a tip that will probably not go down well with the Frank Zappa fans, and it is the fact that if you were into the early Mothers of Invention, the group that made Freak Out, the group that made Absolutely Free, and the group that made We're Only In It For The Money, those albums are genius. But the best example of the early Mothers of Invention is this. Mother Mania, which was given to me by my art teacher when I was at art college, and he bought it at the time. So when I had this, nobody else had it. It wasn't out at that point. It's presented, looks very much like a proper Frank Zappa album. We've got all the Bizarre Verve on here. This was created by Frank Zappa with different mixes, I believe, and programmed by Frank Zappa. And it takes the best of all of those three albums. And again, Zappa expertly runs from one to the next. And we've got Brown Shoes Don't Make It, Mother People, Duke of Prunes, Call Any Vegetable, The Idiot Bastard's Son, and then on side 2, It Can't Happen Here. You're probably wondering why I'm here. Who Are the Brain Police, Plastic People, Hungry Freaks Daddy, and then it finishes with America Drinks and Go Home. It's beautifully programmed. And it, for me, is the representation because it takes the very best of 3 incredible Frank Zappa albums and hones it down. And so It Can't Happen Here has been edited down. It's slightly tightened up, and it's not containing that big, frothy mess that is on the end of Freak Out, which is fantastic, by the way. I love it. But It Can't Happen Here. The idea is that some people could open up an album, side to an album, by just sort of getting on a mic and improvising nonsense was fantastic. And so that's presented in a completely different way. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Right. Here's a contentious one again. I did recently a ranking of Jimi Hendrix. It was quite difficult for me because I didn't know the albums that well. I had to sit down and listen to them all the best I could. And the reason for that is because when I was growing up, it was in the record shop where I used to buy my records, it was just full of loads of best ofs or compilation albums of Jimi Hendrix. I bought one in 1982 called Stone Free, and I love that album. And I wanted to pull that out, but I pulled it out before. But I think my favourite Hendrix album, so this is what I'm on about. This is my favourite Hendrix album. If I'm really truthful, I would love to say my favourite Hendrix album is Electric Ladyland, which I've listened to all the way through. But when I was a kid, I never owned it. So that period where I would sit down in my bedroom and listen to a record from beginning to end, which I never get to do now, I never did with Are You Experience, whatever it's called, Electric Ladyland. Never did. And also, I didn't really want to buy it because my mum might have seen the cover with all the ladies on, the bare ladies, and she thought, what's the hell's going on here? So that's why I never bought it. It's the real reason. They've hidden it now, haven't they? But in the old days, the bare ladies were on the outside, I do believe, was that the case? Can't remember. Jimmy didn't never like that album cover. Even Jimmy didn't like it. This was the album. This is my favourite Hendrix album. I feel bad saying it. It's a compilation that came out called Voodoo Child. Voodoo Child, Power to Love, Freedom, Spanish Castle Magic, Gypsy Eyes, Love and Confusion, 51st Anniversary, which never came out on any of the albums, Little Miss Lover, brilliant, I'm a Hoochie Coochie Man, off Loose Ends, Isabella off War Heroes. So what we've got is a compilation of virtually everything going right back to the beginning with Love and Confusion of Are You Experience, and right up to the real scrappy stuff that Jack Douglas, was it Jack Douglas or was he in the Carry On films? Alan Douglas. Jack Douglas was a character actor in the Carry On films. Don't want to get those two mixed up. Anyway, right down to albums like Loose Ends, I'm Your Hoochie Coochie Man. This is the whole lot. A ton of incredible guitar playing on which is this focus on, and the funky side and the psychedelic side. That to me, this is the ultimate Hendrix album. And is that his signature? I think not. Look at the thought that went into this. Like 5 minutes in a record company. Some bands are brilliant. And some bands make brilliant albums, but they just can't help but make incredible hit singles. And when you've made tons of incredible hit singles and you put all those together and you program it, you get a sublime album. This one is sublime. The best of Earth, Wind and Fire. Look at that. I never noticed that before. It was exactly the same. Volume 1. They did bring Volume 2 out. Look at that. Now that's a band, isn't it? That is a band. Now before I get into this, what's on here? Got to Get You Into My Life, Fantasy, Saturday Night, Love Music, Getaway, That's the Way of the World, September, Shining Star, Reasons, and Sing a Song. And one of the tracks on here, which could be one of their greatest tunes, is it September? One of their greatest tunes you can only get on here. So this is like essential Earth, Wind and Fire album. Tons of brilliant photographs of them on the inner, but just look at them. And look at this bloke here. He's laughing like a giant would laugh. And the thing that always fascinated me with this album was a couple of things. I'll show you them. Their drummer. Look at the kit he's playing there. Double bass drum kit like some metal drummer. But the best bit, of course, is this photograph here of the bass player floating in space. I've shown this a couple of times because I was fascinated. Look at the bloke underneath him, just with his hands on his hips, walking away, right? And he's floating. And I've been told by people who actually saw that live gig, it wasn't that impressive. It was a bit wobbly when you saw it in real life. But it fascinated me because I didn't even understand what was going on looking at that. It was just a picture of this guy floating. I think Earth, Wind and Fire, I mean, they're good and they're funky, but have they actually, you know, developed the ability to float? It'd be impressive if they did. Around about 1983, 82, 83, I was on holiday with my mum and dad. And we're walking down by the beach and some bloke pulls his car up and he's got some boxes of vinyl and I go leafing through. And in amongst all the Val Doonican albums and stuff like that, there was 2 albums I was interested in. And I said to my dad, can I have the albums? And he said he'd only buy one. One album was Pink Floyd, Ummagumma. Now that was a double album and it was a little bit more expensive. And I could tell my dad didn't want to, you know, fork out the £3 for that. He was more interested in just giving me the £2 for the other album. And I bought the other album. And for the rest of the time, well, not for the rest of the time, for many years, I felt like I'd missed out because I didn't get that Pink Floyd double album. Then I went to college and my friend had a Montgomery. I can remember putting on and realising it was a pile of poo. A load of widdly wanky woo woo woo, right? And so I realised I had actually bought the right album because the album I bought contained absolutely classic music that would change my life. I just didn't realise it. And it was this album, encased in tin foil. All right, and this is part of the series Masters of Rock Volume 5. I got no idea who else was in this Masters of Rock. Somebody has managed to etch Jeff Beck very expertly into some tin foil, which is quite a thing. They must have made those letters in wood and then placed the tin foil on and then got something and scratched it and flattened it out. That's the way. Because as a kid, I would stare at this wondering how that was done because I was fascinated by this album. This album is a compilation from Beckola and Truth, the 2 Jeff Beck albums he made when he started his solo career that changed the face of rock music. 2 albums that were as important as anything that Cream or Jimi Hendrix made and really laid the groundworks for bands like Led Zeppelin and Free. On here we have the best of both albums. We've got Shape of Things, Beck's Bolero, which I don't think was on either of those albums. I think that was a standalone single, and Beck's Bolero was the sort of super group that came together for 5 minutes. Let's see if I can get the lineup on here, which has John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page on there. And I think we got Keith Moon on drums on there and Jeff Beck. So it's apparently, as the myths has come around about this, it was on that session that Jimmy Page had the idea for Led Zeppelin, and when he said it to Keith Moon said that will go down like a lead balloon. They should have just called it Lead Balloon. I think that would have been a good name instead of Led Zeppelin. That's a bit too clever. We've got Ain't Superacious off Beckola from 1968, and then we got Plinth. a slice of riffing heavy monstrosity from Truth. Flip it over, we got Rock My Plinth Soul from Bicola. We've got Spanish Boots from Truth. All Shook Up from Truth. The Girl from Mill Valley from Truth. And Rice Pudding from Truth. The lineup on here is Jeff Beck on guitar, Ron Wood or Mike Waller on bass guitar, depending on which album you are looking at. I think it's Ron Wood on Truth, but I'm not too sure. Tony Newman on drums. Totally underrated rock drummer. Laying the foundations for rock music. Here he was. Same as Mitch Mitchell. The same as Ginger Baker. Same as John Bonham. Never gets mentioned. Tony Newman. Incredible drumming. And of course, the sublime vocals of Rod Stewart. I knew that. I felt I should check it. This, I think, is a German compilation. It's got German on the back. I have never seen it any else, and I've never seen it or heard of it in anybody else. I love these two albums, but I never really listened to those albums. So it's really weird. This is an example of two albums because it pretty much covers all the best stuff off. It's got half an album each, in effect. Truth and Bicola are two of the most important albums for me, but I never listened to them. I listened to them on this. Absolutely brilliant. My mum and dad bought me this for Christmas around about 84. I was a bit of a jazz fusion fan, bit of a prog fan, bit of a metal fan. And then my dad knowing a bit about jazz, he took a risk and he bought this. Look at me smiling. I just was obsessed with this. Charlie Parker was the best soloist I've ever heard in my life, and I think that's still the case now. Absolutely incredible. Nobody can solo like Charlie Parker. He's inside his solo. Everybody wants to play virtuoso jazz, and they want to go, and they're all doing it. They all really want to be just be Charlie Parker. But Charlie Parker, it came from inside, and he just flies. Hence the nickname Bird. This pulls together the classic recordings that he did with Miles Davis in 1947. And in 1947, Charlie Parker was at his peak. It was around about the time that he went into rehab, I think. In 47, he came out all refreshed. It's some of the best jazz ever recorded. We got Out of Nowhere, My Old Flame, Clack Ovid Stein, Don't Blame Me, Scrapple from the Apple, Bird's Feathers, Crazyology, Drifting on a Weed, Quasimodo, How Deep is the Ocean, Charlie's Wig, and Bongo Deep. I was obsessed by this album. What else can I say? That was the album. You know, if it comes to bebop, that's the only album I need. All right. This is in no particular order, so it's going jazz to rock, but it makes it a little bit more interesting because that's what a best of does, doesn't it? It pulls all these things together and you get one thing from one album and then you have to jump to another album. So we're going to jump from Charlie Parker to Cream. Now, this is not the album I had growing up. I had an album called The Best of Cream, and it had a completely different cover and a different lineup of tracks. And somewhere in the midst of time, I've lost it. And recently, I got hold of this to replace it. Cream are an example of a band which they're a bit of a strange one, in that there's two Creams. There's Live Cream, which is that exploratory proto jazz rock fusion thing, and then there's the Cream that make the album, and they're almost like proggy. They'll do the heavy blues, but they'll also go down and sort of play English sort of music hall songs or deep Americana stuff. They go all over the place. And the albums I find are a little bit patchy. Does anyone agree with me about the Cream albums, the studio stuff? But when you pull together the best bits, Sunshine of Your Love, Badge, Crossroads, White Room, Born Under a Bad Sign, Spoonful, Tales of Brave Ulysses, Strange Boot, and I Feel Free, you just have an incredible album, although this one is lacking Politician, which is my favourite track by Cream, which I think is off the last album. Let's keep moving on because we've got a lot to get through. I can't get way down. One of the most important albums in my life I'm about to show you. This is in my dad's record collection when I first started playing. It's the best of Dave Brubeck. I don't know if this is called Take 5. It is. It's called Take 5. And it pulls together all the best of Dave Brubeck from the classic Brubeck quartet. That's the one with Joe Morello on drums, Gene Wright on bass, and Paul Desmond on saxophone. Although alto sax, but we do get Joe Benjamin on bass on a couple of these, on the Duke, only on one track. So it's a real compilation of that classic quartet. On here we've got all the best tunes: Take 5, Bossa Nova USA, Unsquare Dance. Someday My Prince Will Come. It was in a waltz, but they play it in 2 times. So there's all this rhythm stuff going on here that was fascinating to me. The Duke, which is a beautiful composition. It's a raggy waltz. I know this album absolutely off by heart. Blue Rondo a la Turk. 9/8. Compound and simple time. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Now, how do I know that? It's because I do believe on this album there's a sort of explanation of how they played it. I wish I could find it now. I can't see it. I'm sure there was. Maybe I just imagined it after all these years. Oh, yeah, here we go. It says Blue Rondo a la Turk is in 9, Unsquare Dance is in 7, Castilian Drums and Take 5 are in 5, Kathy's Waltz is in 3. So it told me the time signatures, and I could then work out. There was this idea of time signatures. Absolutely, really important album to me. And for me, if I only had to have one Brubeck album, it would be that one. That does the job, really does. A band I loved coming up because I was a metal fan was Black Sabbath. And I'd got everything up. I hadn't got Sabotage, but I got the first 4 albums, is it, up to volume 4? But for some reason, I also went and bought this as well. I think it just happened to be pretty cheap. This is their compilation album that Nems brought out in 1982, but it covers those 4 albums. And I do believe, even though I love the Black Sabbath, and I do think you need to have those albums, this is a damn good place to start. And the album's just black with red writing. Look at that. And when you open it up, what's inside? Do you think they have a nice picture of Black Sabbath standing there, or looking like Bob Carroll G's, who used to own Spit the Dog, you know, remember him, British people? No, we get that. Look at that. I mean, that's scary, isn't it? What's on here? It's just bloody brilliant, and it's well programmed. And I used to tend to listen to this album more than the actual proper album. So we got on record 1, side 1, Black Sabbath, The Wizard, and Warning, all from the first album. Right? Then side 2, Paranoid, War Pigs, I Am Man, all from Paranoid, and then it finishes with Wicked World from Black Sabbath. Right? I didn't actually get the first Black Sabbath album. That might be why I bought this, actually. I got that much later. I never really had it, but I didn't miss it because I got this album. And it had Black Sabbath. That was the track I really wanted off Black Sabbath, with the title track. Oh no, please God help me. Side 3, Tomorrow's Dream from Volume 4. Fairies Wear Boots from Paranoid. Changes from Black Sabbath Volume 4. Didn't need that one on, did we? Sweet Leaf and Children of the Grain from Masters of Reality. Masters of Reality is a brilliant album, but you know, I know it's got Into the Void on as well, hasn't it? But with those 2 tracks, you're halfway there. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath off Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, which is the only track I really want off Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Am I Going Insane from Sabotage, good track. And then we got a Laguna Sunrise and Snowblind from Black Sabbath Volume 4, and then it finishes up with NIB from Black Sabbath Volume 4. You pretty much got most of Black Sabbath, the first album. I'm getting confused myself. All brilliant stuff. I've just noticed something here. All compositions by Obi, Ward, Butler and Osborne, except number 3, Record 1, Side 1, which is by Dunbar, Moorshead, and Demaskowski and Hickling, and published by Getaway Music. So which one is number 3, Record 1, Side 1? So that's Warning. I thought that was written by Black Sabbath. Now, you guys that know a lot about Black Sabbath will now be able to write in what the hell's going on and why that track Warning is not written by them. It's obviously a cover version, but a cover version by who? Now, I'm a music YouTuber. I should be up here now telling you all about it, but I actually don't know that, and I've just spotted that. And that's how I get my knowledge. You go, what the hell's going on there? And you find out. So come and tell me so I can, next time I'm talking about Black Sabbath, and I get onto the first album, I can put that bit of information. I haven't got a clue. Bit of interest for you. Right. There's loads of bands that I love. Like I said, Cream, Thin Lizzy. I only need those albums. And another band that I had a best of, which was my favourite album. I actually loved the tracks on it, but never really got any proper albums till much later, was The Who. Now, I had a great compilation album when I was a kid. I think I had a long-term loan off my mate for about a year, and then I taped it and I had it on tape, and that was my Who album, and it was more slanted towards the 1960s Who, which is my favourite Who, probably because I listened to that one so much. So when I hadn't got that, I then went and picked out this. It had just come out. This came out in 1988 when I was 20. So I went and picked this up, and that's all I needed from the Who, and it was this one. And it's called Who's Better, Who's Best, and it's a best of the Who. It's a double album, so it's got a ton of stuff on. Loads of information. This is what you get with best ofs. You always get a bit of writing, don't you? You get loads of photographs. You get all the albums laid out. You can find out about the band. You can know what the hell's going on. And for me, it's just got, I will tell you how much I love each track, because some people think I'm not that fond of the Who. My generation, brilliant, 5 out of 5. Any way, anyhow, anywhere. Early Who. I love early Who. And that's 5 out of 5. The Kids Are All Right, 5 out of 5. Brilliant. Substitute, 5 out of 5. I'm a Boy, brilliant. Wouldn't go down so well now in the current climate, would it? But it's a brilliant song, 5 out of 5. Happy Jack, brilliant. Slightly hippified and great, 5 out of 5. Pictures of Lily, sublime. Absolutely incredible. I Can See for Miles, one of the greatest tracks ever written. I can't tell you how great I Can See for Miles is. People go on about Who's Next, and I say I don't think it's that great. I don't think it's that great compared to something like I Can See for Miles. Who Are You from 1978. Yeah. Right, and then we've turned it over. Won't Get Fooled Again. Brilliant. Off the album Who's Next. Brilliant. That's all you need. Magic Bus, hippified, brilliant. I Can't Explain, one of my favourite Who tracks. Here they come out, their first single, and they have this jaunty, little bit more aggressive, a little bit more gutsier Beatles, don't they? Same as the Kinks, it comes out and it's like You Really Got Me. You know? I just love I Can't Explain, and Keith Moon's just all over it, and he got the bass, absolutely brilliant. Then it's followed up by Pinball Wizard, which is off Tommy. Tommy's brilliant. Obviously, Tommy's brilliant. I'm Free off Tommy. Oh, I'm Free is just absolutely brilliant. See me, feel me. So we get a little run here. Then we got Squeeze Box. Mama's got a squeeze box. I don't want to know about your mama and what she's got. Then we've got Join Together. No, that didn't struck with me. I don't know what that's off. And then you've got at the end, You Better, You Bet, which was the single that had come out in 1981. It's all right. You can see where the quality is. You can see where the quality is with the Who. We're nearly to the last album now. This represents 3 albums that I've got. So I just pulled this one out. This was a pretty important album to me, actually. As you know, if it wasn't for the great John McLaughlin, I wouldn't be here. But I am here because of the great John McLaughlin. And so I discovered the Mavish Orchestra, and I tried to get the Mavish Orchestra albums. And then I found that John McLaughlin had a solo career. Really? That's incredible. I didn't know how many albums. Oh, loads of them. And I was a bit, I've got to get all these albums because I was obsessed by the guy. I was aware that he'd done stuff with Paco de Lucia and El Di Meola. And I had the video Meeting of the Spirits. So I went out and bought this. And this is part of a series that CBS came out. Do you remember these? In their sort of non-shiny covers, or the sort of awful coloured in black and white photos. I got this one. I also bought the Best of the Mavish Orchestra, which I gave away to someone many years ago because I thought they deserved it, and that was because I still hadn't got the Inner Mountain Flame at that point. So the first time I heard Dancer Maya and Meet of the Spirits was on one of these, and I also had, as I said right at the beginning of this video, the Billy Cobham one, which covered the CBS years, which had tracks from the incredible BC, this disco album he made. Right, but this is fantastic. We've got A Love Supreme, taken from Love, Devotion and Surrender with Carlos Santana. That was the first time I heard that. In fact, I think, yes, I didn't know any of these tracks when I bought this. This is the first time I heard New York on My Mind from Electric Guitarist. Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And I think New York on My Mind, has that not got Jerry Goodman on it? And it's almost like a sort of return to the Mahavishnu Orchestra sound. The Dark Prince off Electric Dreams, John McLaughlin is most virtuoso. And then by Shakti, it's got La Danse Bonheur, which that one's off Handful of Beauty, isn't it? And La Danse Bonheur's not got a guitar solo. I was a bit disappointed when that was the first time I heard Shakti. And it starts off with that incredible and I heard that. I mean, that's how much is imprinted on my brain, exactly like that. And, you know, and in times of stress, I can go into that and it just calms me down. Don't do it again, Andy. I know you enjoy doing it anyway, but there's no guitar solo. I thought, well, it's all right, but it sounds amazing. This Shakti sounds amazing. Got to get one of their albums. Turn it over and you get Friendship, which is him off Electric Guitarist playing with Carlos Santana. All these incredible people. And then you get Face to Face, which is off Natural Elements, isn't it? Face to Face is unbelievable. And John just comes in with that guitar solo, absolutely incredible. We get The Unknown Dissident off Electric Dreams, it's got David Sanborn, so that's absolutely beautiful. And then it finishes up with a bit of a letdown, which is the Lotus Feet, which is on the first Shakti album, the live one. Has that got a name? Can't remember. Now, Lotus Feet is one of John's most beautiful tunes. It appeared on the soundtrack to Mollem. It's on the Mahavishnu Orchestra album, Inner Worlds, really strange version where he tries to play it with a very early version of the guitar synth, and I never really liked that. He plays it very beautifully on Meeting of the Spirits, which is where I first heard it. So when I saw the Shakti version, I was like, oh my God, that is brilliant. They're going to actually hear the Shakti version now. And they just drone on it. And then when the tune comes in, the track fades out. Now, that recording must be something. They must have had to fade it out to get it onto the album. So I've often wondered if there's still recording of that version of Lotus Feet. That would be the proper version for me. Anyway, I got to the end of the video. That is it. That was my 15 favourite best-ofs. I really enjoyed doing this. It's been really great to talk about some albums that mean something to me that I feel are neglected because of the nature of them. And I forgot to put all the albums up. Shall I pick the best cover? You wait there, you lot. I'm going to... Oh, no, not that one. Maybe, oh, I don't like that one. Which is the best cover out of all of these? You know what I think it is? That I will end. It's Chico Hamilton. I'm sticking back up again. Come on, look at that. A very kind viewer of the channel sent me a copy of the Dealer classic album from this period, and that's the classic cover. These Impulse albums have had such brilliant covers at this point. But not so much Coltrane's. I never thought they did, but this is beautiful. Anyway, I'm whittering on now. If you like this video, stick a like on it. If you want to see some more, you can see some more. It's your choice, because it's a free world. You can see whatever you want. It's your desire. So whatever your heart's desire. You know, if you don't want to see me again, don't. It's up to you. I'm not going to make you. But if you do, you can probably get reminded of me doing more videos by pressing the subscribe button. If you would like to support me and become a member of my Patreon, which is like joining my own little private army, where you can meet like-minded people. They're like-minded because they all like me, which is the best sort of like-minded people you can get. If you want to join that club and join the Patreon WhatsApp, which I now feel like a bit of an intruder when I get in there, because they have made such friends, social networks, they're sharing music, a lot of them are musicians themselves and they share music between themselves. You can do that by becoming a Patreon. There's a whole ton of content. Even now, I've got my Patreon is where it's at, I'll tell you. And when the world goes down and YouTube is no more, or it gets taken over by the censorship, you know, Nazis that are out there, I'll have to decamp over to Patreon. Hopefully, because Patreon is like the Wild West. You can do whatever you want in there. There's nobody stopping your videos because you put music in, and there's no copyright strikes or anything like that. You know, Patreon's where it's at, I think. I'm being serious. Patreon is where it's at. If you're a creative person, Patreon is where it's at. And any creative person should be thinking of Patreon as being the centre, not a side thing, but the centre of their creative output. That is my advice to creative people, and I could do a video on that if you want to know about that, because I will do that stuff as well. But if you're a busy person, which I understand, but a wealthy person, if you're a wealthy, busy person, usually it goes together, doesn't it? But if you're both of those, you think, you know, with my vast wealth, I would like to support Andy somewhere, you know, because I've got a proper job, and there he is, middle-aged man trying to make ends meet just by talking twaddle on YouTube, and I need to support him with my vast wealth. You can do that, and you don't have to become a patron, because I haven't got enough time to do that, because I'm a proper person that's got a proper job. If you're one of those people, you can help me by putting a donation. Don't think of it as a donation. I don't like it. It's not charity. Think of me like a digital busker. I'm here busking away, and in front of me I have my digital hat, and the digital hat is in the link down below, which is my YouTube PayPal tip jar. And I thank so much for the people that not only send me a little bit of cash through that, but also put lovely messages on there, which I appreciate very, very much. I really need to thank everybody. If there was an easy way of messaging you all back from PayPal, I would. But it being PayPal, I don't know how it works. I don't know how a lot of things work. Most things in life I don't. This is why I can't do a proper job. This is why I have to do this instead. Never been able to do a proper job. I did a proper job. It wasn't even a proper job, because that was like a graphic artist, so I was still drawing all day. You know, like an actual proper job. That's a proper job to me is where you get up in the morning and you have to do something that you hate. That's a proper job, and I respect the people who do that. You know, and not only do they hate it, but they still apply themselves 100% because they have the sensible brain to focus on what matters in life, which is looking after themselves and their family. And the world is full, I'm going serious now, the world is full of people like that. And don't you feel we're getting a bit ignored at this point? I've now put me in that group, but I want to be in that group. I want to be with all the normal people. But you're not normal, Andy. You never have been. I haven't been now. It's been the bane of your life. It has, hasn't it? And you spent a whole life having to, you know, from a little ADHD kid that you were, you know, getting on everyone's nerves. And then having to choose the most obtuse routes in life. Being contrarian all the way through, you just basically got on everyone's nerves, didn't you? Yeah. And even now, when you get involved in this awful, you know, prog fight between me and the prog corner, they're all siding with the prog corner, and he started it. And you know, I'm the natural villain. It's always been like that. But in my late middle-aged years, I managed to find a place on YouTube where all these bad character traits that have caused me so much problems in my life actually seem to be a bonus. And all I have to do is unscrew whatever's in my head and let it all come pouring out, and people seem to enjoy it, which I find very, very strange. My teachers never thought like that. My mum and dad never thought like that. People at school didn't think like that. You have to keep your mouth shut. And you know what, someone like me, if I have to keep your mouth shut, you know what happens? Get panicky, get anxious, the scourge. I'm talking to you at the moment, I haven't got a worry in the world because I'm skating on the, you know, skating on the thin ice of anxiety, but I'm skating. It's when I stop skating and stand still that you risk plunging yourself through to the icy depths. Why I've got to the end of this video and it's got so confessional, I do not know. I should stop really, because I can feel the emotion welling up inside me. I don't want to start crying at the end of the video, especially when we've just been looking at best ofs. That would be weird, wouldn't it? But it is. Doing this is like it's like a catharsis. It's a sunny day out there today. Beautiful day. I have really been ensconced, that's the word of the day, ensconced in making YouTube videos recently to the detriment of everybody around me. I'm sat in a dark room. Every morning I'm getting up and shooting YouTube videos. I'm trying to get up to doing one a day to really consolidate the YouTube. And it's a lot. This is why I've done one with records that I can hold today, because I haven't got to then edit it. I can just bang the thing straight up and hopefully get out there and appreciate this, the beauty. So I'll straighten it up a bit. There's my little picture of the Beatles. They're always there. The Beatles are always there. I always have them. But appreciate that beautiful English summer's day. I hope you're having a beautiful summer's day in whatever country you're in, unless you're in Australia, then, you know, but it's boiling hot down there. I was in Australia once in the winter time. No, I wasn't. I was there in the summertime, but I was there at Christmas. I'm getting all confused now. I think we're done. Thanks for watching. See you later.